Hello, thanks for tuning in today. I am pleased to welcome Teri Moore to speak to us today and tell her widow story, her love story, which also, sadly, it is also a widow story. And I've said on here many times, when we say "till death do us part," when we're young and in love, we don't really even think about what that means. And then when it hits, you're like, oh, this is so hard.
Yep.
So, all right, Teri, tell me, how did you and your husband meet?
I met Jerry when he was part of a band called Doc Rogers and the Rock Dodgers. And at the time, I was actually dating the singer. Things happened, and I wound up being with Jerry. We did break up at one point. And I told him at that time that if I was mature enough to give him the time and space that he needed to become this musician, that I would get him back in the end. And that's pretty much what happened. We got back together. He was still a musician. And that started our life together.
How old were you guys?
I was, let me see. I was 25 when we got married, so I was probably 23, almost 23 when we got together.
Yeah.
I was 3 years older. I'll take that back. I was 25 and he was 22. That's what it was.
But we have
25 and
such
22.
similarities just in the little bit that we've talked even before recording.
Yeah.
Bob was 22 when we got married, and I was just a few weeks shy of turning 25.
Yep.
And
Interesting.
Very.
So I did have 2 kids from a previous marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been a Christian. I stepped away from the church, and he really never was. And so we lived together for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And we wound up and we did get married. And he took in my children just like they were his.
Wow.
And they really had nothing to do with the fraternal father. So he did adopt them. So they sealed the birth certificates, and they were just his. And people to this day, a lot of our friends, they didn't realize that they weren't Jerry's when they met us.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and anyway, we wound up and we had 2 more. So I've got 4 children.
Awesome. I'm sure they've kept you going.
Oh yeah. We that's understatement.
Yeah.
But so that's how we met.
All right. So, what was so when you started dating? Go back to the dating years, which I know it's been a hot minute at this point. But what was your first date? Do you remember?
My first actual date would probably just be going as a couple, but going to watch him play.
Oh yeah.
And then
what type of music did he play?
R&B, rock and roll.
Oh yeah. Oldies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But back then some of them weren't so old.
Yeah. Right.
They were like good songs.
That's probably. Do you have recordings of him?
I do. The recordings that I have, though, most of them are from a church that he played in. He played the bass.
Oh,
bass guitar.
Yes.
And he was awesome.
Oh,
he really was very, very good. Very good. And so most of the CDs that I have are from when he was playing at Redemption World Outreach Center.
Okay.
In Greenville.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you fell in love with him and his music.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So tell us, I'm a romance person at heart. So how did he ask you to marry him? How did that come?
This is funny. Okay, so I knew that he was going to ask me, but I didn't know when. And so we went to this, it was dark, and we went to this place, and you could hear the water in the background because he wanted the sound of water when he proposed. And it was dark, and he got down on his knee, and he, asked me to marry him. And then the next day, when we went back to where we were, it was like a substation that had one of those pools.
Oh, yeah.
And it just cracked us up because it's this is, looking at it now is not real romantic.
But in the
dark, it was great.
Yeah, right.
So,
I love that. I love to hear water running too. So that's cool.
That was it.
All right. So then you got married and had 4 babies together, or 2 together.
Yep.
All together 4.
Yep.
Together. And what was your marriage like?
Great the first few years.
Mm-hmm.
We got married in 1982, and my youngest son was born in 89, and 3 years later, in 92, Jerry was diagnosed with low-grade non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma.
Oh, okay.
And over a period of 13 years, he probably had 7 to 8 episodes of that cancer, and each cancer was either met with chemotherapy and radiation, maybe just radiation. At one point there was just a chemo pill that he took.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of all that, he was a hemophiliac.
Oh, wow.
So any of the surgeries that he had to have for tumors or whatever that happened to grow, it was a hospital stay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was rough.
Yeah.
It was just really a rough period of time. He did get a couple good years. He went down to Florida to the Players School of Music, and we put our house on the market, but he went ahead and went down and signed up for the 6-month program that they had. So he did nothing but eat, breathe, sleep, and play.
Oh.
His bass.
Yeah.
And he took from one of his heroes over that time. And but he got sick. And when he came home and the house didn't sell, and that's a God story. It was not meant to be sold.
Gotcha.
He got sick. He had to come home after 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And so when he came home and we started the process again of diagnosing and that kind of thing, he just wasn't well. And he got a little bit better. There was no cancer or anything that was found at that point. But a few months later, he had a place on his tongue. Oh. And it's called leukoplakia. And he told the ENT that, it bothered him and, he wanted him to remove it. And so when he removed it, that was on a Monday. And then during that week, they found out that it was squamous cell carcinoma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, cancer of the mouth.
Okay.
And so the following Monday, he went back and he started the whole process of chemo and radiation. And back then, it was chemo first, and then they did radiation. And the radiation, of course, as a lot of people know, maybe don't know, but it's every day. For however many weeks that your program's supposed to last, your treatment. And so he got to the point where he actually had to be hospitalized during that. Oh. And he would get picked up every day by this ambulance couple, I called them. They were just friends, but a guy and a girl. And they picked him up every day and they transported him to where he needed to go for the radiation, and then brought him back to the hospital. Now my mother-in-law lives with me now, and that's a whole nother God story. But she was there. She didn't live in Greenville, but she came and she stayed pretty much at the hospital, and I worked. And I was very thankful that I had a full-time job. Yeah. Because that helped provide for the family over all of those years. Right. But even after all of that was over with, and all of everything that he went through, there was still cancer in the back of his throat. And so we made the decision with the doctors. At that time, they removed the tongue. Oh, gosh. So we had to go to MUSC in Charleston. Okay. And to be honest, we really didn't think that he would make it through because of his he had a compromised immune system. He was weak. He was a hemophiliac. It was going to be like a 9-hour surgery, 9 to 13 hours. Yeah. So they remove the tongue, and then they take your pec muscle or a muscle from down here on your wrist and rebuild your tongue. Oh, wow. So they did all that. And then it was still there. Oh. It was just terrible.
Devastating.
It was just terrible. Oh. He wound up with a tracheotomy. He had to have a trach and all that stuff. And So that was the hardest part of our marriage. Just
the enduring.
Yeah, it was
of all that. Yes.
And and then I still had kids at home. I had kids that were one that was married, two that were married, one that was in college, one that was still at home. I call them my older set and my younger set.
Yes,
so,
right. Yeah.
So that was hard on all of them.
Sure.
And especially my youngest son, Justin.
Yeah.
So, but
wow.
yeah.
So then, how old was Jerry when he passed?
He was 48.
Oh wow! So was Bob, and
I was 51.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
it's a tailspin,
and
you're not old, but you're not young.
That's right.
At that time.
That's right. Exactly. And for us, for me, and for Jerry, there wasn't a hospice house in Greenville at that time.
Okay.
So we actually did hospice in the hospital in Simpsonville.
Okay.
He felt comfortable in hospitals because he'd been there off and on since he was like 13 years old because of his hemophilia and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where we did hospice, and he passed away there.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
November 5th of 2005. It's almost been 20 years.
That is, wow.
That's crazy.
I wonder,
That's crazy.
because I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, time just became so different after Bob died. I think it was partly your brain's trying to catch up with and figure out life when every single thing is different.
Yeah.
And keep moving.
Yeah.
But I always say it feels like even when Bob was in the hospital, each day just felt like 10 years kind of. And then when he went on to heaven, when he died, it feels like even now for us it's 4 years for us. And in some ways it feels like just yesterday, but in other ways it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
And it's that way.
It's still like that. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this part of your story. It's my hope that we can encourage others. I know when there was a lady that reached out to me who had been a widow at that time for 4 years when Bob died. And she was about my age. They had 8 kids. She was a homeschooling mom. And
Bless her.
She was my pillar of strength. Even though she would say she wasn't, she was, because I thought, I didn't know how I was going to survive. And when I saw Kathy, I thought, okay, if Kathy can live and she's made it, I can too. And so I think that's what really in this journey with Jesus, that's a big part of the testimony is he doesn't promise that we're not going to have hard.
Right.
He doesn't promise. I mean, we do know love is forever.
Yes.
We do know that.
Yes.
And we know God's the same yesterday, today,
Yes.
and forever. And God is love. And what we do know is He's with us. He promises to never leave us or forsake us. So, I don't know. I appreciate you sharing today, Teri. I hope you're encouraged by Teri's sharing her story. So, is there anything else you want to say?
I do want to say one thing.
Okay.
I did work full time, and people at work, they were wonderful. I couldn't have asked for better friends, for better managers, anything. Whatever time I needed off, they gave me. But the one thing that they kept asking me, how do you do it? I mean, how can you just keep on day to day to day to day? And I said, I can't do this. Yeah. I'm not doing this by myself.
Right.
As I say, if I did not know God and believe in Him and know that I was going to see Jerry again, I wouldn't have made it through any of that.
Right.
There's just no way.
I 100% agree.
So.
And how did I introduce myself? I saw you out walking, and I'm a
yes.
walker. And that's also, you just have to keep walking.
Yes.
You keep going.
Yeah.
And you continue your walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's it.
Well, thank you. That's my gift for you today.